Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 58th Annual Georgia Author of the Year Awards announcement. I'm Garrett Conley, the new Executive Director of Georgia Writers. We are thrilled to come together again to celebrate a fantastic year of writing from talented Georgia writers. Without further ado, let the announcement of the 2022 Georgia Author of the Year Awards commence. First off, we want to thank Ife Williams for her work in designing these wonderful awards. Born in Atlanta, Ife Williams has had art in her life forever. It's played a central role in her life since early childhood. Ife Williams began her formal training in sculpture at Interlochen Arts Academy in Northern Michigan, holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in sculpture, metalsmithing from the University of Michigan, pursued a master's degree in museum studies at Syracuse University, and received a certificate of nonprofit organizational management from the Georgia Center for Nonprofits. Over the last 3 decades, Ife has worked actively as a maker in stone and ceramics, while also serving in several administrative roles. She currently holds the position of Deputy Director of the Hambidge Center for Creative Arts and Sciences in Raven Gap, Georgia. As an artist, she was the inaugural sculptor in residence at the Paul Abrams Endowment Project in Miami, where she developed an apprenticeship program for teens, led workshops for Florida arts educators, and created original artworks using traditional stone carving techniques. The 2014 residency at the Hambidge Center for Creative Arts and Sciences was pivotal in her transition from stone to clay. Over the last 3 years, she has worked to refine her voice and establish a visual dialogue with thrown and altered porcelain wall installations. Beyond her current position, her professional experience as an arts administrator includes the role of Executive Director of the Hudgens Center for Art and Learning in Duluth, Georgia, Museum Curator at the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens in Miami, Development Consultant at the Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator in Miami, Assistant Collections Registrar for the Henry Art Gallery at the University of Washington in Seattle, and Director of Fulton County's Department of Arts and Culture in Atlanta. Outside of work, she's a mother of 18-year-old fraternal twins and enjoys pursuing creative endeavors in clay, stone, and paper, baking, hiking, and rock climbing with her children, and exploring the rich array of arts and cultural activities available in our community. Ife loves working in the arts because she believes everyone should have art in their day-to-day life, and being a part of this team allows her to have a hand in making that happen within her own community. I agree. More of her work can be found on Instagram at The Carving Studio. Before we begin, we have exciting news that we would like to share. Georgia Writers will be celebrating the recipients of the inaugural John Lewis Writing Grants tonight at a reading and Q&A on Zoom at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please join us as we celebrate George Chidi, Reniqua Lee, and Jay Michelle later tonight. Congratulations again to George, Reniqua, and Jay. We're proud to announce we're now accepting submissions for the 2022 John Lewis Writing Grants. All that information can be read online at our website, georgiawriters.org. These grants are inspired by the late civil rights icon and his more than 3 decades of service as Georgia's 5th District Representative. We will award 3 grants, one in each of the categories of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. The purpose of the John Lewis Writing Award, or grant, is to elevate, encourage, and inspire the voices of Black writers in Georgia. Applicants must be emerging writers who are Black or African American residents of Georgia for at least 1 year, or full-time residents or full-time students at a Georgia college or university at the time of application and on the date of the award. We'll be posting more details about the awards later this month on our website, updating it really, and we'll begin accepting submissions on August 1st. So keep that in mind. Now to introduce our posthumous Lifetime Achievement Award. The recipient of our posthumous Lifetime Achievement Award this year is Camilla Aisha Moon. Camilla Aisha Moon was the author of Starshine and Clay from Four Way Books 2017, a CLMP finalist featured on NPR's All Things Considered as a collection that captures America in poetry, and She Has a Name, also from Four-Way Books, 2013, a finalist for both the Audre Lorde and Lambda Literary Awards. She also wrote a nonfiction chapbook on nascency in 2015. Among her many interests, Camilla enjoyed reading books from an early age. She developed a love of writing and poetry in high school, where she began working on 2 self-published chapbooks of poetry collections as she pursued her undergraduate studies. Camilla Aisha earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in English at Payne College in Augusta, Georgia, and was employed at Hallmark Cards, Inc. in Kansas City, Missouri, as a writer where her work was featured in various card collections. After receiving a Master in Fine Arts degree from Sarah Lawrence College, she also taught poetry and writing for various arts and education programs like Community Word Project and the Dream Yard Project. She was an adjunct professor at Medgar Evers College, CUNY, Drew University, and Adelphi University, before eventually landing a tenure-track position at Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia, as an assistant professor of creative writing, where she taught until her passing in 2021. A graduate fellow of Cave Canon's Writers Retreat, she has received fellowships from MacDowell, Hedgebrook, Prague Summer Writing Institute, Vermont Studio Center, Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, Massachusetts, and the Rose O'Neill Literary House. Camilla once said, quote, "Time marries experience to alter us in numerous ways as we interact with the world. The poems I write are receipts of these interactions, lyrical invoices that record the glories and costs of breathing." A Pushcart Prize winner and 2015 New American Poet, her poems and essays have been published widely, including in the Harvard Review, Poem a Day, World Literature Today, Jubilat, Southwestern, Ecotone, Prairie Schooner, the New York Times, Oxford American, Boston Review, American Poetry Review, PBS NewsHour, BuzzFeed, Adroit Journal, and in Best American Poetry 2019. She was featured nationally at conferences, festivals, and universities, including Furious Flower at James Madison University, the Library of Congress, and Princeton University. Camilla's tribute is presented by Sharon Strange on the Georgia Writers website. Sharon Strange has taught creative writing at Spelman College since 2003. She has also been visiting faculty at the Georgia Institute of Technology and the Center for the Contemplative Mind and Society, as well as a writer in residence at many other colleges and universities. Her poems and essays have appeared in numerous journals and anthologies, as well as in museum and gallery exhibitions in New York City, Boston, Atlanta, Oakland, and Seattle. Her poetry collection, Ash, was selected by Sonia Sanchez for the Bernard Women Poets Prize. Other honors include the Ronna Jeff Writers Award, the Georgia Writers Association Lifetime Achievement Award, and grants and residencies from the DC Commission on the Arts, the Geller Writers Center, the MacDowell Colony, and Yaddo. Recently, her work has been published in The Art Section, an online journal of art and cultural commentary, and the anthologies Black Imagination, Furious Flower, Seeding the Future of African American Poetry, Bearden's Odyssey, Poets Respond to the Art of Romare Bearden, and Revise the Psalm, work celebrating the writing of Gwendolyn Brooks, and also a forthcoming collection, Bigger Than Bravery, Black Resilience and Reclamation in a Time of Pandemic. Her collaborations with composers have been performed by American Modern Ensemble, the Dream Unfinished Orchestra, and the La Jolla Symphony and Chorus, among others. She has written the text of Yet Unheard and the libretto Awakening for composer Courtney Bryan, and the song cycle In Her Voice for composer Paula Grissom. Her current project is the libretto for an opera commissioned by the International Contemporary Ensemble for production in 2024. How exciting. Now, onto our Lifetime Achievement Award. The recipient of our Lifetime Achievement Award is Clarence Major. Clarence Major is a novelist, poet, and painter. Born in Atlanta, he grew up in Chicago. While still in high school, he won a scholarship to the Art Institute of Chicago to study art and art history at Fullerton Hall. In 1966, he left the Midwest and moved to New York, where he worked as a research analyst for simulmatics, researching bias in newspaper coverage of the riots. Major's novels include Dirty Bird Blues, Penguin Classic, Such Was the Season, a Literary Guild selection, My Amputations, winner of the Western States Book Award, Painted Turtle, Woman with a Guitar, a New York Times Book Review Notable Book of the Year, and One Flesh. He has contributed to The New Yorker, The New York Times, The Washington Post, The Harvard Review, and dozens of other periodicals. He is the author of 16 collections of poetry. His poetry was selected for inclusion in the Best American Poetry 2019. A Fulbright scholar, he taught at the University of Nice, France for 2 semesters. Major won a National Book Award Bronze Medal, the Western States Book Award for Fiction, a National Council on the Arts Award, and in 2015, he won a Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in the Fine Arts from the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, Washington, D.C., and in 2016, a Penn Oakland Reginald Lockett Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Literature. He was elected to the Georgia State Writers Hall of Fame in 2021. Before retiring in 2007 as Distinguished Professor Emeritus of 20th Century American Literature and Creative Writing in the English Department, University of California, Davis, he taught at Sarah Lawrence College, University of Washington, Howard University, Temple University, University of California at San Diego, and other universities. He lives in Northern California. Clarences Tribute is presented by Philip Lee Williams, which will also be available on our website. Philip Lee Williams is the author of 21 published books, including 13 novels, 4 works of nonfiction, and 4 volumes of poetry. His books have been published by such presses as St. Martin's, W.W. Norton, Random House, Grove Press, Ballantine, Dell, Viking Penguin, and Mercer University Press, as well as a number of other smaller and university presses. He was the editor of the Clayton Tribune, a copy editor of the Athens Daily News, associate editor of the Madisonian in Madison, Georgia, and editor of the Athens Observer, and a newspaper career spanning from 1972 to 1985. After that, he was a writer and later a teacher of creative writing at the University of Georgia from 1985 to 2010. Williams retired as an assistant dean in the Franklin College of Arts and Sciences at UGA in 2010. He lives in the country near Athens, Georgia, with his wife, Linda. They have 2 grown children and 3 grandchildren. Williams is a member of the Georgia Writers Hall of Fame, alongside such notables as Margaret Mitchell, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Pat Conroy, Henry Grady, and James Dickey. In 2007, Williams received the Governor's Award in the Humanities from the state of Georgia during ceremonies in Atlanta. He has been named Georgia Author of the Year 4 times in 3 different categories: fiction, poetry, and essay. He's also a winner of the Townsend Prize for Fiction for his first novel, The Heart of a Distant Forest, and is a Grady Fellow, the highest honor given by UGA's Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication. In addition, he is the winner of the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Georgia Writers Association. Right, now we're getting on to our nominees, exciting part of our time together. So we're starting off with biography. Here are our nominees. Don't they look gorgeous? Okay, so our first one is Paige Bowers and David Montague for Overnight Code, The Life of Ray Montague, the woman who revolutionized naval engineering. Next up is Margaret Coker for The Spy Master of Baghdad, a true story of bravery, family, and patriotism in the battle against ISIS. Next up is Laura Debundo for Jane Austen, A Companion. Next, we have Sandra E. Godwin for A White Liberal College President in the Jim Crow South, Guy Herbert Wells and the YWCA at Georgia State College for Women, 1934 through 1953. Jerry Grillo for The Music and Mythocracy of Colonel Bruce Hampton, a basically true biography. Kay Lanning Minshew for Jimmy Carter, Citizen of the South. John Lewis and Andrew Iden, illustrated by L. Fury and Nate Powell for Run, Book 1. And Charles Person, Buses Are A-Comin', Memoir of a Freedom Rider. The biography finalist is for The Music and Mythocracy of Colonel Bruce Hampton, a basically true biography. And this is by Jerry Grillo. Judge David Cady says of The Music and Mythocracy of Colonel Bruce Hampton, reading like a novel, Jerry Grillo did a superb job of conveying in detail the story of a wild and mysterious Atlanta legend. The author painted a moving portrait of the often misunderstood life and times of a man who inspired creativity in others through his humor and his playing of some of the best music ever heard in America. Most importantly, Grillo helps the reader see the world through Hampton's eyes, and he created a truly mesmerizing vision. Now, our winner for the biography category is Overnight Code, The Life of Ray Montague, the Woman Who Revolutionized Naval Engineering, by Paige Bowers and David Montague. Katie says of Overnight Code is the inspiring and powerful story of Ray Montague, an African-American woman born in 1935 in the segregated South, who overcame many obstacles to reach the pinnacle of her profession. As a single mother, Ray Montague educated herself both inside and outside the classroom to become the professional of her dreams against what seemed like insurmountable odds. Working for the United States Navy, Montague became not just the first woman or the first African American, but the first person to draft a naval ship by computer using a program she designed. This well-documented and incredible book demonstrates the perseverance and passion are truly the keys to success in finding your lifelong ambitions. Congratulations. So here is our next category, children's book. Look at these beautiful covers. I always love looking at children's book covers. They're always so beautiful, so colorful. We need more color, right, in our book covers. So our first one, the nominees are Rosalind Bunn and Maggie Bunn, illustrated by Keller Pyle, All Aboard, Georgia. Reem Faruqi, illustrated by Michaela Prevost, I Can Help. McCall Hoyle for Stella. Julie Lavender, illustrated by Shahar Kober, Children's Bible Stories for Bedtime to Grow in Faith and Love. Natalie Nelson, Dog's First Baby. Laurel Snyder, illustrated by Emily Hughes, Charlie and Mouse, Lost and Found. And Deborah Wiles, illustrated by Andrea Stegmeyer, We Are All Under One Wide Sky. The children's book finalist is I Can Help by Reem Faruqi and illustrated by Michaela Prevost. Sorry, I hope y'all didn't see that. Judge Malcolm Mitchell says if I Can Help, with a breathtaking dose of vulnerability, Reem Faruqi and Michaela Prevost grant an opportunity for us to step into the perspective of a child whose innate instinct is to help, but struggles with the social barriers that inflict us all, even as adults. I Can Help highlights the beauty and pain associated with those who want to help and those who want to be helped. While the central character learns a valuable lesson, as a reader taking on the perspective of the two characters that need a little extra attention, I learned there is value in helping for all parties involved. And the children's book winner is, if you didn't already see it, sorry to spoil the surprise, but it's exciting nonetheless. We Are All Under One Wide Sky by Deborah Wiles and illustrated by Andrea Stagmeyer. Mitchell says of We Are All Under One Wide Sky, We Are All Under One Wide Sky is delivered with superb timing. While life seems to be different from person to person, the whole truth is that we all have so much in common. Whether through triumphs or tragedies, we share the human experience of wanting to be our best selves. By celebrating our diversity, we reveal our similarities. Instead of using our talents in isolated pockets, we move this world forward by using our talents in unison. We are all under one wide sky, sends a message that will never lose its value. We are stronger together. Very true. Our next category is the cookbook. And the nominees are another great category for book covers, right? Here they are. Look at them. They're so beautiful. So our first one is Cheryl Day for Cheryl Day's Treasury of Southern Baking. Next up, we have Cynthia Grubert for Strawberry Love, 45 sweet and savory recipes for shortcakes, hand pies, salads, salsas, and more. Rebecca Lang, Y'all Come Over, charming your guests with new recipes, heirloom treasures, and true Southern hospitality. Chef Deborah Van Treese for the Twisted Soul Cookbook, modern soul food with global flavors. And our finalist is Y'all Come Over, charming your guests with new recipes, heirloom treasures, and true Southern hospitality by Rebecca Lang. Judge Asha Gomez says, let Rebecca Lang show you how to throw a party in the South, y'all. This book is a gem for people who love to entertain. It guides you on how to be genuinely hospitable. And as Rebecca says, quote, no matter the size of your home or budget, entertaining can be a sparkling light in your life. Now, our winner is Cheryl Day's Treasury of Southern Baking. Gomez says of Cheryl Day's Treasury of Southern Baking, as much as I'm someone who loves to cook Southern food, I'm often intimidated by baking. Cheryl Day's cookbook has quickly become my go-to Southern baking Bible that I can depend on for delicious sweet treats. This trusted trove of recipes is born out of what Cheryl accurately calls lineage, an ancestry that ties her generationally to recipes that are rooted in the South. How lucky we are that we can now bring Cheryl Day's Treasury of Southern Baking into our kitchens to satisfy our sweet tooth. Next up, we have Detective and Mystery. The nominees are, well, first off, here you go. All lined up and looking beautiful. Stacey Abrams, While Justice Sleeps. Kimberly Bell for My Darling Husband. A. Shane Eder for The Prosaist and the Unholy Ghost. Jocelyn Jackson for Mother May I. Iris Johansson for The Bullet. Karen Slaughter for False Witness. C. Matthew Smith for 20 Mile. Christopher Swan for A Fire in the Night. C. L. Tolbert, or Tolbert, I think, for The Redemption. Karen White for The Attic on Queen Street. And Kate Young for Reading Between the Crimes. The finalist is While Justice Sleeps by Stacey Abrams. Judge Brian Panowich says of While Justice Sleeps, it's incredibly hard not to be a fan of Stacey Abrams, the woman, the activist, and definitely the writer. While Justice Sleeps is a compelling and complex legal thriller on par with any of the masters of the genre, such as Meltzer and Grisham. The book checks all the boxes. Danger, intrigue, shadow government, a brutal plot, and fascinating characters, and not once does the novel pander to its readers or speak over our heads. It's a brilliant book written by a brilliant author who every Georgian should have on the top shelf of their bookcase. Now, the detective mystery winner is A Fire in the Night by Christopher Swan. Panowich says of A Fire in the Night, it's already been proven that Christopher Swan can offer up fantastic and engaging novels, but with A Fire in the Night, Swan gives us a no-holds-barred action mystery thriller that is nearly impossible to put down. The plot is a speeding bullet, and the attention to detail and setting is amazing, but mainly Swan can just flat out write people. That's scary. He plays inside the gray area where heroes can sometimes not be so heroic and where villains garner as much sympathy as the protagonists. Swan's ability to convey a true family dynamic, yet never stop churning out cinematic scenes custom made for the big screen, makes Christopher Swan one of the best writers in Georgia, that Georgia, or anywhere for that matter, has to offer. Yeah. Yay for outwriting. Okay, so here is our next category, the essay, and the nominees are Regina N. Bradley, Chronicling Stankonia, The Rise of the Hip Hop South, Miriam C. Brown Spears, Encountering the Sovereign Other, Indigenous Science Fiction, William S. Duffy Jr., The Significant Lawyer, The Pursuit of Purpose and Professionalism, Janice Ray, Wild Spectacle, Seeking Wonders in a World Beyond Humans, and Lauren Smith, What Do You Got, Lauren? Dispatches from Georgia. The essay finalist is Wild Spectacle, Seeking Wonders in a World Beyond Humans. Judge Megan Volpert says of Wild Spectacle, Janice Ray's lifelong ecology project continues in Wild Spectacle with a deeply poetic and broadly relatable bent. The beauty of Georgia and Montana are particularly on display in a collection of essays covering travels all over the globe that are linked by themes of meridian, migration, and magnitude, rather than chronology or place. Ray is an expert at both showing and telling, sometimes allowing a powerful spectacle to speak for itself, and other times explaining what is truly at stake for unprotected wilds in the long term. Wild Spectacle proves yet again that Ray is a trusted guide. And the essay winner is Chronicling Stankonia, The Rise of the Hip Hop South by Regina N. Bradley. Volpert says of Chronicling Stankonia, Bradley is a defining voice of the New South, an engrossing one that blends academic analytical chops with a personal narrative of lived experience as a Black woman who grew up after the civil rights movement. Her argument that hip-hop culture since the 80s represents concerns and methodologies of the next wave of contemporary Southern Black identities is clear and persuasive and without alternatives. Chronicling Stankonia begins with a close philosophical reading of Outcast and ends with an exhortation to invigorate cultural studies through attention to the popular arts and letters made by Black Southerners. To echo Andre 3000, quote, Regina Bradley got something to say. Next up is our first novel category. The nominees for first novel are Benji Carr, Impacted, Anjali Anjeti, The Parted Earth, Larry A. Freeland, Chariots in the Sky, a story about US assault helicopter pilots at war in Vietnam, Anju Kanwar, The Dark Side of the Moon, Robin Lucas, Paper Doll Lena, Wanda M. Morris, All Her Little Secrets, Shanjana Sathian, For Gold Diggers, and Pamela Terry for The Sweet Taste of Muscadines. The first novel finalist is All Her Little Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. Judge Ginger Eager says of All Her Little Secrets, Wanda M. Morris's legal thriller doesn't sacrifice a whit of theme to plot. I couldn't quit turning pages to discover the sinister scheme that protagonist Elise Littlejohn works to uncover at Houghton Transportation Company. But never did my speed reading allow me to breeze past Littlejohn's experience as an educated Black woman in corporate America. Even as she's fighting a big fight against the well-funded, well-organized racism of a hate group that intends to frame her for its wrongdoing, her days are punctuated by steady, smaller racisms, such as microaggressions from clueless coworkers and racist profiling from store clerks. Even the secret from her childhood that may be her downfall, if uncovered, reveals less about Littlejohn's capacity to do wrong than about her determination to survive when targeted. By the time Littlejohn struts into Houghton ready to, quote, be done with this hellhole and the ignorant bigots that inhabited it, I was rooting for her in a way that curled the edges of the book. And our first novel winner is The Parted Earth by Anjali Angetti. Eager says of The Parted Earth, Anjali Angetti's family saga, Parted Earth, drew me in from the first page with the love story of Deepa and Amir, two teenagers living in New Delhi in 1947. Their youthful affections take on multi-generational consequences when the sectarian and religious violence of partition overturns their lives. What follows is a mystery whose very structure mirrors the effects of genocide and exile. There are more beginnings than endings, more questions than answers. The work of piecing together the past falls to the grandchildren, specifically Deepa's Indian American granddaughter, Shan, who is committed to understanding her father and grandmother despite the complicated role each has played in her life. Angetti doesn't shy away from the dangers wrought by trauma, and neither is she afraid to proclaim the profound life-altering capacities of generosity, forgiveness, and stubborn familial love. The Parted Earth is cathartic and renewing. I cried the best sorts of tears at the end. Okay, moving on to the category of history. The nominees for history are Carol Anderson II, Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America. Christopher Blake, Reckless Misfortune, the Century We Inherited from the First World War. E. Culpeper Clark, The Birth of a New South, Sherman, Grady, and the Making of Atlanta. Andrew Filer, Better Life for Their Children, Julius Rosenwald, Booker T. Washington, and the 4,978 Schools That Changed America. Deshaun L. Harrison for Belly of the Beast, The Politics of Anti-Fatness as Anti-Blackness. Christopher R. Lawton, Laura E. Nelson, and Randy L. Reed for Seen, Unseen, Hidden Lives in a Community of Enslaved Georgians. William Rawlings for Lighthouses of the Georgia Coast. Jan Slimming for Codebreaker Girls, A Secret Life at Bletchley Park. Carol Townsend for Peachtree Corners, Georgia, The History of an Innovative and Remarkable City, 1777 through 2020. Ben Wen for Something in the Water, A History of Music in Macon, Georgia, 1823 through 1980. And Neely Young for Georgia Made, The Most Important Figures Who Shaped the State in the 20th Century. The history honorable mention goes to Seen, Unseen, Hidden Lives in a Community of Enslaved Georgians by Christopher R. Lawton, Laura E. Nelson, and Randy L. Reed. Judge Lisa Russell says of Seen, Unseen, if there were a third place category, this book would be in it. This group of authors and editors did impeccable research by using primary sources. The letters confirm the narrative. The history is not pretty or admirable, but the authors tell the story of slave owners who established an early franchise in Georgia. Even difficult history deserves to be told. The letters include the formerly enslaved as well as the Cobb Lamar family. The history finalist goes to Lighthouses of Georgia Coast by William Rawlings. Russell says of Lighthouses, William Rawlings continues to be the premier Georgia narrative historian. After several titles exploring Georgia's history, Lighthouses of the Georgia Coast does not disappoint. This beautifully designed book draws the reader into the historical significance of Georgia's coastal lighthouses. His narratives of shipwrecks explain why lighthouses popped up across our coastlines. The solid stories draw us into the engineering details and captivate readers to go deeper. Sorry, I gotta get coffee now. Woo, so a lot of talking. I kind of love it though. He does not ignore the mystical quality and symbolism of lighthouses while offering encouragement in these difficult days. Quote, over the centuries, the lighthouse has become more than a physical object. For many, it is seen as a powerful symbol of hope, a metaphysical beacon of guidance for those tossed about on the stormy seas of life, a psychological landmark pointing the way to a place of shelter. Our history winner is Peachtree Corners, Georgia, the history of an innovative and remarkable city, 1777 through 2020 by Carol Townsend. Russell says of Peachtree Corners, at first glance, Peachtree Corners looks like a beautiful coffee table book. Open the cover and discover Carol Townsend's skilled history narratives. In the end, it all comes down to good writing with impeccable research. The opening pages set the tone. Quote, what we are at risk of sacrificing with change is our heritage, the history of a place, the land, and her people. Once those treasures are bulldozed and buried under the red Georgia clay, they are lost forever. All that remains are the memories, scattered photographs, and word-of-mouth accounts of those who walked before us. Eventually, even those are lost to transition, to carelessness, to fire, to flood, and ultimately to death. History books can be dull and data-filled or story-driven, and composing the truth, Townsend strikes a perfect balance. Our next category is inspirational. The nominees for inspirational are Laura Dabando, When the Parallel Converge, John Lewis, Carry On, Reflections for a New Generation, Andrew M. Manis and Sandy Duane Martin, Eavesdropping on the Most Segregated Hour, a city's clergy reflect on racial reconciliation, and Carl McCullman, Eternal Heart, The Mystical Path to a Joyful Life. The inspirational finalist is Eavesdropping on the Most Segregated Hour, a city's clergy reflect on radical reconciliation, edited by Andrew M. Manis and Sandy Duane Martin. Judge Beth Sarah Wright says of Eavesdropping, editors Andrew M. Manis and Sandy Duane Martin have created a timely book that raises an important conversation about race and its place in pulpits across America. With a diversity of contributors, this book takes the reader on a journey that critically explores the challenges and opportunities for, quote, the most segregated hour through stories and perspectives on some of the country's most pressing questions around politics, racial reconciliation, and Christianity. Our winner of the inspirational category is Carry On, Reflections for a New Generation by John Lewis. Wright says of Carry On, with wisdom, wit, and authenticity, Lewis shares his unique insight on a variety of topics ranging from justice and hope to marriage and love to the pandemic and on leaving a legacy, among many more. He continues to teach, guide, and offer a keen perspective from a lifetime of experiences as a civil rights activist, dedicated congressman, and accomplished human being. Our next category is literary fiction. The nominees are Kaya Alderson, Sisters in Arms, a novel of the daring Black women who served during World War II. Mary Kay Andrews, The Newcomer. Mary Kay Andrews for The Santa Suit. Janet Hogan Chapman for Mother Love. Laura Morelli for The Stolen Lady, a novel of World War II and the Mona Lisa. Thomas Mullen for Midnight Atlanta. Anne Mulligan for On Sugar Hill. Vanessa Riley for Island Queen. Zachary Steele for The Weight of Ashes. Mark Warren for Indigo Heaven. Mark Warren for Song of the Horseman. Karen White for The Last Night in London. And Tiffany Yannick for Monster in the Middle. The literary fiction finalist goes to Song of the Horseman by Mark Warren. Judge Zoe Fishman says of Song of the Horseman, to seamlessly weave descriptive prose and interior thought while propelling a story forward is no small task, but to do so while simultaneously evoking empathy for and frustration towards the protagonist is impressive. But to pull that off while meshing 2 generations worth of grief, misunderstanding, and racism against a masterfully rendered backdrop of nature in all of its infinite glory while touching on the universal bond between man and animal is downright Herculean. Warren's prose is magnificently rendered, the kind of writing that makes the reader put down their book for a moment and marvel. This is a story about retracing steps, both literal and figurative, to find out where we began. And our literary fiction winner is Midnight Atlanta by Thomas Mullen. Fishman says of Midnight Atlanta, there's something about a good crime novel. The reader is transported to the scene, taking diligent notes on a pad of paper with a nubby pencil while wearing a fedora. And that's just a good one. The great ones like Mullen's Midnight Atlanta seamlessly weave history and setting while amplifying the humanity of its characters and, most importantly, its protagonist. This is a crime novel not just about a murder, but about racism, both implied and absolute. You can feel Atlanta in its pages, a bourbon just before the storm rolls in, a belly full of barbecue, a whole lot of history, and the humid summer air. Our next category is memoir. The nominees for memoir are Richard Allen Anderson for The Good Times, A Love Story. G. Wayne Clough, The Technological University Reimagined, Georgia Institute of Technology, 1994 through 2008. E.A. Cooper, War in Twilight. Sorry, the slide is missing here, but definitely we want to acknowledge that E.A. Cooper's War in the Twilight was also nominated. Justine Cohen, Secret Life of Dorothy Soames. Paul Hornsby, Fix It in the Mix. Yusuf Salaam, Better Not Bitter, Living on Purpose in the Pursuit of Racial Justice. And Dante Stewart, Shoutin' in the Fire, An American Epistle. The memoir finalist goes to The Secret Life of Dorothy Soames, by Justine Cohen. Judge Christy Robin Johnson says of The Secret Life of Dorothy Soames, quote, "It is lonely to have no love for one's mother. This stark confession from the final page of Justine Cohen's gripping memoir is a perfect distillation of the profound emotional honesty that is the hallmark of all notable works of art. Cohen's journey into her mother's mysterious, unspoken past reveals not only a traumatic personal history, but also a dark social history fraught with the brutality of codified misogyny, classism, and child abuse. As Cohen examines the origins of the Foundling Hospital, a sinister, almost Dickensian institution in which her mother spent her formative years, she discovers telling truths about her mother and herself. As she writes, quote, "But my mother's journey was not about anger, it was about shame." Readers sense a shift in Cohen's heart, that universal sense of relief that comes with understanding one's parent. Ultimately, this narrative is a meditation on the healing power of reflection and forgiveness, forgiving one's mother and forgiving oneself. The memoir winner goes to Shoutin' in the Fire, An American Epistle by Dante Stewart. Johnson says of Shoutin' in the Fire, an epistle in its simplest form is a letter, a formal or didactic written communication. At its height, an epistle is a gospel, a glorious tiding, a doctrine, an uncompromised truth. Dante Stewart's Shouting in the Fire, an American epistle, is a soul-changing gospel. Stewart's often ecclesiastical cadence becomes palpable as he explores the seminal notion, quote, I wonder if the country I love can imagine itself as being better than the ways as it is learned to be terrible. Through his sometimes harrowing and often maddening experiences that range from being shot at by a racist neighbor to being silenced by well-meaning Christians, Stewart takes both a sleeping society and a spineless church to task. By way of his own moving revelation, the reader is challenged to examine their own humanity. Shoutin' in the Fire is a work of both unrelenting bravery and forward-looking hope. It is the gospel truth indeed. Amen. So our next category is Poetry Chapbook. The nominees for Poetry Chapbook are Catherine Fallon, Demoted Planet; Katie Ferris, A Net to Catch My Body in Its Weaving; Andrea Djurdjevic, Night Call; Catherine Pratt Russell for Raven Hotel; A. Previtt, Still No Grace; and Federica Santini for Unearthed. And the Poetry Chapbook finalist goes to Demoted Planet by Catherine Fallon. Judge J. Nichelle says of Demoted Planet, incredibly moving and balanced, Demoted Planet is one of those chapbooks that pulls the reader to return to it again and again. Each poem is like a vignette, slowly unveiling the narrative of a child coping with loss. Fallon's elegant delivery of poignant images and the small moments that make up a life take the reader on a journey through the complexities of grief. This collection is simultaneously heart-wrenching and captivating. Poetry Chapbook winner is Still No Grace by A. Previtt. Nichelle says of Still No Grace is a thoughtful and creative exploration of gender, the body, and what it means to be and to become. Each poem is full of the type of intimate tenderness one would expect out of a reunion with a close friend, and so many lines take gorgeous, unpredictable turns that keep readers invested and on their toes, i.e., quote, your name should be the name you would give to an alien if you were the first person it met. This honest collection asks hard questions and illustrates the inherent clumsiness in the task of searching for and finding ourselves. Our next category is Poetry Full Length. The nominees for Poetry Full Length are, I love to see so many poets up here. Eugene C. Bianchi, Interbeing, New and Selected Poems on Ecological Spirituality. Mike Booth, A Cowboy Remembers Western Religious and Patriotic Poetry. Rosemary Daniel, The Murderous Sky, Poems of Madness and Mary. Jaden DeWald, The Rosebud Variations. Gordon Johnson, Scaring the Bears. Aruni Kashyap, There Is No Good Time for Bad News. Ariel Marie, Gumbo Yaya. Sam Rush for Swallow. Anya Krugovoy Silver for Saint Agnostica. Robert Simon for An Ode to Friendship. Jane Simpson for Psalm Sonnets. Carrie Scott Wilkerson for Cool Fever of the Sky. M.L. Williams for Game. And William Wright for Brass Chapel's New and Selected Poems. The Poetry Full-Length finalist goes to Saint Agnostica by Anya Krugovoy Silver. Judge Julie E. Blumenka says of Saint Agnostica, in a letter to her son, Anya Krugovoy-Silver wrote, quote, "I still exist. Energy doesn't die." This testament is proven repeatedly in Saint Agnostica, a posthumous collection of poems that winds into spaces of mystic attunement, one that bears the questions within the universe of the body. A reconciliation with divine presence and absence, these poems invite us into unavoidable depths of grief, into raw truths of confronting grace in one's final chapters. Attentive in their rendering, offering, quote, miracles of quiet and quickness, of coupled wildness. Krugovoy-Silver's work never shies from fame or insistence. A collection lovingly finalized by her husband and family of poets, an anthem from a beloved teacher and sage departed too soon, the resonance of Saint Agnostica is a comfort. Krugovoy-Silver's words will keep their time within us, fierce in their compassion. This book is a gratitude to open and reopen. The poetry full-length winner is Gumbo Yaya by Ariel Marie. Blumenke says of Gumbo Yaya, Ariel Marie's Gumbo Yaya is a searing sanctuary and feast. It shapes the stars of Black girl voices and queer body politic. Summoning an Egan, Ariel Marie's poems companion us sharp, splinter a relentless encouragement to take up the, quote, joint contract of curiosity. They necessary our eviction from colonialist and capitalist conditioning, dazzlingly dangerous, vulnerably acrobatic in form, riff, and soundbreak. These poems catapult from the page and into the marrow, irrevocable. Language is held accountable, even as it consumes and anneals. The altar of Gumbo Yaya is a temple of wonder and divine interruption, a cartography that calls us with absolute certainty, a gospel we undeniably must return to again and again. Beautiful words, thank you. Our next category is romance. Get a look of our steamy covers. Our first finalist is Marilyn Barron for The Romanov Legacy. Susan Carlyle from Florida Fling to Forever. Susan Carlyle again for Taming the Hotshot Doc. Lauren Connolly for Read Me. Janine Englert for The Highlander's Secret Son. Jane Lewis for Home in Wilder. Colleen Oakley for The Invisible Husband of Frick Island. And Wendy Wax for The Breakup Book Club. Our romance finalist goes to The Breakup Book Club by Wendy Wax. Judge Susan Sands says of The Breakup Book Club, Wendy writes with sparkling wit and empathy for those who find themselves in tough situations. In this story of heartbreak, friendship, and redemption, Wendy masterfully judges 4 points of view as the story celebrates overcoming obstacles in life and coming together to support one another and rejoice in that victory. This story is a testament to strength and perseverance in a challenging world. Our romance winner is The Invisible Husband of Frick Island by Colleen Oakley. Sands says of The Invisible Husband, Colleen's writing is immersive, humorous, and entertaining. The Invisible Husband of Frick Island is the story of one man's dogged journey to discover the truth, but what he finds is far more enlightening. Written with gentleness and wisdom, the romance unfolds between Piper and Anders as they discover that persistence and an open mind make anything possible. The twist at the end is the cherry on top of this lovely story. Our next category is young adult. The nominees for young adult are Rashani Choksi for The Bronzed Beast, Caroline George for Dearest Josephine, Darren Hicks for The Crown Heist, Kimberly Jones and Gilly Segal for Why We Fly, Shannon Miles for All Time, Chris Negron for The Last Super Chef, Nick Stone for Fast Pitch, Joey Weiser for Dragon Racer. The young adult finalist is Fast Pitch by Nick Stone. Judge Kristen Gwynn says of Fast Pitch, Nick Stone hits a home run with her release of, ooh, sorry. I went too far. Okay, here we go. Nick Stone hits a home run with her release of Fast Pitch. Stone's passion for her softball amplifies the authenticity of this middle grade sports mystery, expertly interwoven with history. When a dark family secret threatens middle softball captain Shanice Lockwood's regional championship, she must grapple with the history of racism in baseball in order to lead her team to a historic victory. Okay. And our young adult winner is The Bronze Beast by Roshani Chokshi. Gwynn says of The Bronze Beast, Roshani Chokshi delivers a bittersweet conclusion to the Gilded Wolf series. Over 3 books, Chokshi crafts vivid, diverse characters that grow together as they solve puzzles, mysteries, and relationship hurdles in a magical 19th century world based in folklore and history. The Bronze Beast is a satisfying end to a powerful series. Chokshi's lyrical storytelling and realistic, lovable characters are hard to leave behind. Roshani Chokshi is a powerhouse in middle grade and young adult literature. It will be exciting to see what she comes up with next. I agree. So we have reached the end of all of these wonderful books, all of the nominees, the finalists, and the winners, which we have here on the slide for you. Congratulations. I mean, it's just such a wonderful day. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Congratulations to everyone. And thank you for all of our incredibly generous judges for all the work that you've done. We look forward to seeing you tonight on Zoom at the John Lewis Writing Grant Celebration reading at 6 p.m. There should be a link to it as well in this. So I really appreciate you. And I look forward to reading more books next year. See you all soon.